Welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a yoga teacher, mom of 3, entrepreneur, and forever curious student. This podcast is being recorded on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. In case you are brand new to the podcast, and this is the first episode you're listening to, let me tell you why it was first created. Mainly because 20 years ago, when I became a yoga teacher and I left my first yoga teacher training, I really felt like I was dropped out into the wilderness of running a yoga business and still learning about yoga, and honestly, still learning about myself as a human walking on the planet. And it wasn't because there was something lacking in my yoga teacher training. It's because it's so vast what we as yoga teachers need to keep up with, Learning about yoga is a lifetime study in itself, and then learning how to be an entrepreneur and be a yoga teacher, running a business, along with just the way things have changed in the world at the same time. I really wanted yoga teachers to have access to ideas, resources, and a supportive community. And I thought, what better way than a podcast on the go? So I'm so glad that you're here for today's episode, where we are really going to dig into talking about marketing. And the title of this one is a play on words, thanks to our guest, Brea Johnson. So let's dive in. As you already know, if you are a yoga teacher and you've tried to tell anyone about your offering or your studio, your workshop, your training, whatever it is, marketing can feel overwhelming, especially in a world where we think that everything has to be polished and perfect. But really, what I've realized is that people really do value authenticity and you being your real self and showing up. But I know it might not feel like that right away when you go to market something. Of course, we want it to look professional and we want people to want to sign up and we want it to look like we know what we're doing. So along the way, we have that imposter syndrome show up. Many teachers struggle with feeling like it's not enough. Maybe they don't feel comfortable enough in their body. Maybe they don't feel confident enough as a yoga teacher or as an entrepreneur, or they feel like they're not the expert or they're not skilled enough. And in my experience, that's not true. If you've taken a 200-hour yoga teacher training or more than that, you are definitely experienced enough, and you are definitely enough to make a big impact in the world. And in order to do that, you need to talk about your yoga offerings. And I know it's hard. I know it is. In this episode, we talk with Brea Johnson and we explore how showing up with honesty and imperfection can actually be a really powerful marketing tool. Today's podcast episode is powered by OfferingTree. Here is a small but mighty software company. I've been using this software in my own business for years. I love that it automates everything: bookings, payments, Zoom links, reminders, and so much more. And we have a special discount for you because you're a podcast listener. That's over at OfferingTree.com/Shannon. Again, that's OfferingTree.com/Shannon. So like I said, today we're joined by Brea Johnson, who has been teaching yoga, movement, and anatomy since 2003. She's the founder of Heart and Bones, a global online platform that celebrates functional movement and inclusive yoga for both teachers and everyday people. We had Brea on the podcast way back in episode 78. And I'll link to that episode in the show notes. We got to learn all about how she created an online yoga studio. So if you haven't listened to this episode and you think, oh, I want to hear more from Brea, we've got another episode for you. Now Brea travels the world teaching, and what makes her so refreshing is how she mixes deep knowledge with this real down-to-earth, real-world approach to both yoga and marketing, which is why she's the perfect yoga teacher to talk about how we can share our yoga, how we can market things, even if we feel like we suck at marketing. She embraces, let's all suck at marketing. So let's dive in and meet Brea. Welcome back to the Connected Yoga Teacher Podcast, Brea. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, I'm happy to be back after all these years.
I know, we were just saying it's been a long time. I'm excited that we get to talk about how we can suck at marketing as yoga teachers. But before we get into that, tell us, what's the work that you do? Who do you do it for? Are there any updates since we last chatted?
Yeah, I think we were trying to figure out when I was last on here, which I'm pretty sure it was around 2018 or 2019. And that was when I had first launched the Heart and Bones online yoga studio. And so who I am, I'm a yoga teacher, movement educator, teacher of yoga teachers. I've been teaching since 2001, which is kind of wild because that doesn't feel like that long ago, but it's completely that long ago. And I've done it all in terms of teaching yoga and business stuff. I used to own a brick and mortar studio many years ago. I've run retreats all around the world. I've run this online business since 2018. And so when it comes to marketing, I feel like I've done it all and can still do it all. And there's lots to learn, but it's been interesting to see how it has changed over these years. And then with the advent of social media, and even then, how social media has changed even from 2018 when we last talked. So, yeah, so that's me, Heart and Bones Yoga, and just really teaching people about healthy movement, functional movement, bringing functional anatomy into yoga so that we can move our joints better. We can feel better in our bodies. We don't have to try to get our leg around our head. It's really about creating these inclusive and accessible practices for all. And yeah, well, while still retaining the heart of this beautiful, powerful practice that we are all gifted here in the West.
I'm super grateful for the work that you've been doing. I've been watching your journey. I definitely follow you on social media, and I love how you disrupt in spaces. I've seen you be like, yeah, this is my jiggly belly, and taking out, like, let's look into our inner fat phobia or the shaming that society does to our bodies, or let's unpack like cultural appropriation in yoga a little bit, or um, while still educating about like teaching yoga, and that's a real dance. So thank you for doing that. What inspired you to talk about like when we suck at marketing? What started that conversation in your own mind?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. Well, wait, let's frame for a second, like what sucking at marketing maybe means. So I think not too long ago, I did a post where, yeah, the whole thing was all the ways that I suck at marketing, which was just being a little bit cheeky at looking at this $1 billion yoga industry, this $1 billion wellness industry that sells and creates insecurities back to us and profits off of that. And as somebody who runs a business and needs to continue to run a business because this is our livelihood. And so, marketing, when you run a business, this is something that we need to do and continuously do. We can't just sit on our laurels and just hope that and expect that people are going to come with us. Marketing is an active part of running a business. And most of my business comes from social media. So I personally kind of have this love-hate relationship with it. I never was somebody who was like, oh, social media, when it first came out, oh, I'm going to be on it. No way at all. I was like, this is bullshit. I don't want to do this. Da, da, da. And I remember it was my sister who, like, when Instagram first came out, she's like, Brie, you should start posting. I'm like, oh, I don't want to. And I like it must have been like 2012 or something. I can't quite remember when Instagram. So maybe I think joined in like 2013. And yeah, so there's like that conversation around, okay, well, how has social media changed since then? A lot, maybe a different story that we might talk about later, or maybe a whole other conversation. But so for me, it's this constant tension of like, well, how do I promote what I share and what I do and how I know I can help people and how my business can help people without falling into that trap of playing to the algorithm, right? So doing all those little hooks and all those little things that like you kind of have to do, especially in the algorithm space it is now than it was even a year ago, 6 months ago to a couple years ago. How do I do this while maintaining my own integrity? How do I do this while still trying to be authentic? How do I do this where we can try to build relationships with our potential customers? And, so I just I have these moments where I'm like, forget about all of this. This is such crap. I don't want to play into this. I don't want people to feel bad about themselves in order to buy my products. I don't want to use my body, and I'm in a white, able bodied body. So I have a body that our culture says, ooh, that's okay. You fit in. No, no, no. And I don't want to exploit that. I'm already have that privilege so I don't want to. So for me, I don't want to exploit that and then be in it. And this is me, and people can wear whatever they want, but I'm not going to wear a crop top. I'm not going to wear booty shorts. And so it's like these tensions between the things that our culture that was sells in the culture and the things that I don't. How do I want to represent myself? How do I want to represent my business? So yeah, that for me, that's always this sort of tension. And I think I just got fed up at one point recently and was just like, well, here's all the ways that I suck at marketing and let's continue to suck at marketing because the playfulness of that saying sucking at marketing was really just being more so let's continue to be authentic. Let's share what we want to share, how we share. Let's be mindful of the intersections that we all exist in, especially with yoga and the fact that it's a multi-billion dollar industry, the fact that it is been appropriated, the fact that my business is yoga. I am making money off of yoga. How do I do that ethically? Like, so there's these lots to kind of unpack here. So maybe that's the overview ish of marketing in this world right now.
I appreciate that so much. And you said some things that really stuck with me, like being authentic. And what I think it is you also really sticking to your values as a yoga teacher. You're like, I know what would sell. Me dancing around in a crop top would probably really boost like my engagement and me being seen by new people, which would help you probably financially. And yet you're like, I'm not willing to do that. And then you also announce that to the world, which I think grabs our attention. I think people are looking for that authenticity to be like, yeah, yeah, that's right. It's cool to see someone really athletic nail a handstand and hold that. And, you're like, wow, I'm in awe. But then when it starts to lean into, I want my body to move like that or look like that. And so I should sign up for this yoga class so that I can be thinner or better or stronger or whatever. That's the dig of like marketing, of like, is it playing into our insecurities? So I appreciate this. What kind of hits your list of like, yeah, I don't like this part of marketing, therefore I'm not doing it.
Hmm. Hmm. I think everything we've named already, for sure. Because I've yeah, sorry, okay. Got excited there for a second. So because I have realized over the years, again, if I ever take the extra time in my life to scroll on social, and then I start to see like the typical yoga ads start getting fed to me or something, and it's like get your yoga butt, or here, again, it's a able-bodied, fit, white woman usually in the just selling using their body as the vehicle in which to sell, which again, to be clear, we all have to do that because that's a visual thing. That's what social media is. We show videos of ourselves, but it's in the way that we do that. Using yoga, this beautiful ancient practice that's been gifted to us from India, to sell your yoga butt, that gets me. And then, so for me, I often do these, I have to like make fun of it. So in the past, if anybody's happened to follow me or if you're new, go to Heart Bones and kind of dig deep a little bit in the feed to find these things where then I mock it in a playful way of like, here's the new yoga butt. And it's like this funny other opposite thing. Um, so those are the things that really get me because also as a yoga teacher and as somebody, a practitioner who's been practicing this since 1999, again, watching all of these different fades or fads happen over the years, I see how much of our dominant culture shows up in yoga as well. You know, those again, like the dominance of able-bodiedness. So I just always use the leg around my head example. So therefore let's go advanced, let's go deeper into the pose. These things that we hear in our yoga class that is reflecting to this ableism, let's say, as an example. So let's get our leg around our head. Let's do the splits. Let's do these really quote, quote, advanced poses, but that's not advanced. That's just somebody who has a deeper range of motion. So it's like that kind of messaging is already showing up in our yoga classes, in our teacher trainings, and I'm making mass generalizations, but this is stuff that I've seen over the years that continues to show up. And so that just gets me every time as somebody who teaches everyday bodies, who teaches teachers to teach everyday bodies, real life people. Like so it's those messages that get me. And then that's where I want to just give it the opposite and in a playful and fun way, in a way that's like, hey, ha ha ha, look at this. We all feel this way, but it's playful so that we can at least laugh and learn. Maybe there's a laugh and learn element to my marketing.
I love that because it's not like you are, you know, getting in the comments of someone's video and being like, why are you talking about yoga butt? And, kind of becoming this internet troll, but you're probably letting it percolate sometimes, or maybe it's like a quick reaction. And then you're creating content that educates all of us in case, like, I know that I cringe at things that I used to say as a yoga teacher. You called it out in saying, like there's a progression of yoga poses and this one's more advanced. Like that used to be in my language as a newer yoga teacher. And it wasn't until I started hearing other people educating about it where I was like, I'm going to change the way I talk about poses. um, is it all, do you always find ease in like taking something that irritates you that you see in the yoga world and then getting playful about it? Like, where's the process in that as well?
Oh, I love that. It's therapeutic, is what it is. Yeah, no, and I think that's our yoga. I think what you just named though is recognizing because I never want to be positioned. Because one of the things that really bugs me about what we've been taught in some ways in yoga is this hierarchy, right? And that's again this dominant culture coming in, and the hierarchy of white supremacy, the hierarchy of um, able like just all these things that are built on these hierarchies that put somebody else on top of other people. And that shows up a little bit in our yoga practice, right? The teacher, your teacher. I remember in my early days of being like, oh, I got to find my capital T teacher and learn at their feet. And and over the and simultaneously for me having that conditioning, okay, this is what I have to find, and then this other part of my voice at the exact in my head at the exact same time being like, no, everybody's your teacher, there's no, and this like dichotomy and push and pull that was existing at the same time. So for me over the years, that's been my practice of yoga, which is unpacking all of that. So what you named of, well, I, as a teacher, used to say this, and then I learned, and now I do something different. I never want to put myself in that hierarchy and being like, well, I'm the expert on inclusive yoga, which is just the opposite of what, like, and so I don't want to put that myself into that position on social media or in the marketing and being like, this is bad, therefore what I'm doing is better. It's just more like, hey, look at what we can see. Our yoga practice invites us to see ourselves more clearly, to see our conditioning, to see our habits. And that's powerful. And I'm the first person to say I used to say ridiculous things. I'm sure I've harmed people in a variety of ways over the years unintentionally, because this is life and this is learning and this is how we continue to grow. And that's the yoga. So I want to bring that into how I share and what I share. And it just happens to be on social media. And that's the way that I want to share those messages and communicate in a way that hopefully isn't reinforcing those same things that I'm rallying against. So still being invitational. Hey, check it out. What do you think? And then making people laugh so it's disarming a little bit more. So that once we're a little bit less reactive and maybe we're laughing instead of being reactive, maybe we're a little bit more open to that growth opportunity.
Love it. I also love comedy for that exact reason. I really love it when comedy gets into some like social justice areas of our world and calling out like the different systems that do oppress people. So I'm curious then how you think, because you've been a teacher for a long time and you've been using social media. You said you find most of your people on social media. How has social media changed in the last, I don't know, I think it's really shifted in the last 4 years personally, but maybe you see something different. Like, how has it changed for you? What are you noticing? Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
It has changed a lot. It's changed in so many different ways, and it's really, I feel like I remember Facebook back in the good old days, whatever good days that was. And I could post stuff, and so again, back to what I was saying earlier a little bit about, I didn't want to join social media. I was not that type of person, whatever that type of person is. Now it's really ubiquitous and almost all of us are on it in some form or another. But in the early days, it wasn't quite like that. But I saw that what I wanted to share, which was this anatomy informed approach to yoga, offering different inclusive, accessible ways to move, functional ways to move, it lent itself really naturally to video. It lent itself really naturally to photo. So in social media, because social media was a really natural form to share that. And also because it wasn't restricted to whatever location I was living in at that time, I knew if I'm feeling this way, if I'm looking to do my yoga asana practice differently and more functional and not create more injuries, I'm not the only one doing this. There's people around the world that are doing this too. And so the way to connect with people around the world was to get onto social media. And so in those early days, it was great. Now I look back fondly and being like, wow, that was so easy to go viral in some relative form of virality. It was easy to just find the people. And it just seemed like, and the algorithm showed you who you were following. And then it started to change. And then Facebook started to do ads. And then all of a sudden, that reach that you would get went way down because Facebook was wanting you to pay for your reach. And so iterations of that has changed over the years, moving more and more towards just always having to do this algorithm dance where you have to be quite nimble and pivot and go, okay, it's reels now. Everybody reels. And then that makes me laugh too, because for a while, like then Instagram was like, oh, we love reels. Reels, oh, you go viral. Here you go. Here's a million viewed video where you did like nothing change. I didn't do anything different. And I had one video in specific, pardon me, just went poof off. Like a million people looked at it. I was like, what? I'm so great. Look at this. And then it's like, no, it's not. This is the algorithm.
Right.
And sure, like maybe there's some fun things, but like what I've learned, I just when I think I've dialed it down and nailed it, like this is the type of video that's going to go. It's is it maybe and maybe not. And so there's this fine line between social media is so good. It's a large percentage of how a new business comes to me and I find to connect with people and community. And it's annoying and it's frustrating and you always have to change. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation right now because I recently in our Heart Modes teacher training, we were just talking, we had a live call about this. And so talking about different ways that we can work with social media in our business. And actually some of our students in the course came up with some really beautiful perspectives that might help some of the people listening in terms of social media because For me, I've been in it for so long. It has grown, and it seems, you can look like, ooh, so many followers, Brea, heart bones, which is funny and just the algorithm, like multiple reasons. But for those who aren't interested in necessarily reaching a global audience, those who aren't interested in necessarily as quite doing what I'm doing on social, there's still benefit to having, let's say, a smaller following, whatever a smaller following is, a couple hundred people, 1,000, whatever, because it's still sort of like a calling card. It's still sort of like a website. And one of the people in our course, I love that she really put it. She's like, I go and it's a way for me to also vet the people that I want to follow. Because I can go to somebody's website and be like, oh, they're great. But then I can go on their Instagram page, let's say. And even if, like they have not a lot of views and that thing didn't go viral or whatever, it doesn't matter. I can go and go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That person loves props. Oh, yeah, this teacher is teaching all these ways that I really resonate with. I'm going to go to their class. So, anybody listening to this, it's following. This is my biggest thing about, I think, social media now, where it is now. It's so easy to get sucked into, oh, this post isn't performing, or that post is performing, or, oh, now I have to do this and now I have to do that. But I think there's something about the consistency and letting go of the so-called vanity metrics and seeing that more broad view of how social media can help connect us. And so that, again, listen to this and trust that even if you have 300 followers, 50 followers, keep posting, because people, and using tags for your location. So let's say you live in Toronto or something. So you can go hashtag Toronto yoga. And even if 3 people look at it, it might be enough for one of them to go, oh, I like the way that they're doing this. I resonate with their approach. I'm going to go to their class. So it's an interesting beast. And so one of my best ways that I think that we can not be good at marketing for the average person is always go back to, well, why am I posting? Why, like, who do I want to help? How do I want to help? And just keep repeating that, like why am I even on this beast of social media that is not looking out for you, right? They just want eyeballs. And yeah, whew, there's a lot to say with all that.
This is really good. I love how you said that people are using this to vet people. I do this, like, let's say someone sends me to their website and they say, can I be on your podcast? I immediately now go to Instagram first. You're right. A website's really hard to get someone's voice, to kind of see what else they're sharing. Like, if I go to someone's Instagram and they're immediately selling, um, like how to be a different shape in your body, or let's say they're telling people like this is the only way to do yoga, or here's how to be more flexible, like this person isn't a good fit for the podcast. I know that, like, my audience isn't going to respond well at all. And so it's a great way to for me to see that. And on the flip side, I remember going to this one, this person had a really small following. That's the other thing. I'm never looking for like huge numbers. I love that you called attention to this. I just clicked on a few videos and she was like, my husband was really sweet to help me to illustrate how these yoga poses can be modified for someone who doesn't have is a beginner to yoga and doesn't have the same, flexibility as other people. And it was the sweetest video. I feel like I was like, yes, yes, like let's get a podcast interview booked. It was just this real nothing about it was edited or fancy. That authenticity really was shining through. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, let's talk about that. Oh, go on. Yeah,
yeah,
go on.
sorry, go ahead. You say whatever you have to add to that.
Yeah, because I think that's so important about, and we hear that word authenticity. Just be authentic, and I know in my experience, so many people are so scared to be on social media, scared to put themselves out there, scared to have trolls, and this is all fair and real. And at the same time, I think what you just said of that example, it was the very fact that that person was just being honest in herself is what hooked you. And that's what authenticity is. It's Vulnerable, absolutely, to put yourself out there, especially if you're not somebody who's comfortable in front of a camera and maybe your first bunch of posts are going to be super awkward, And that's why for me, it's always like first and foremost, I'm like, what is my why? Why am I even doing this? What is my who? Who am I helping? And what is my how? How am I helping? And so that's going to be we could all be answering those same questions the exact same way, but the way that I'm going to show up and answer those questions in social media is going to be different from the way that you are. So for me, I guess I like to be playful and goofy and funny, and I have no problem looking like a dork in front of tons of people. And that's become my thing. And so that's my authenticity. That's my way of and I think that's my only way of staying sane through it all because I've been in this game for so long and I don't want to. I think it'd be silly for me to drop off of social media knowing that it does convert, let's say, and like work. But at the as we said before, it's that I don't want to lose my integrity and then go, oh, but what really like, okay, things are converting, but they could convert better if I'm doing XYZ that the algorithm loves, that the dominant culture loves, etc. I know I might have to take a hit on some financial level or something or grow slower because I still want to stay sane and I don't want to be anything other than myself. And it really, and it's a beautiful, so when you show up as yourself, whether that's being goofy, whether that's being more educational, whatever your beautiful, unique flavor is, that is the calling card, as we've been talking about, to other people to say, hey, yeah, I resonate with that person. Or somebody can come across you and will go, oh my God, who's like for me, like, why is she dancing around lip syncing something? Like, no, thank you. That's not the yoga teacher I want. Then I'm like, good, my work here is done. Because if that's what you don't like, then we're not going to be a great fit because all these other people love the goofiness and that's what works. And then that's what shows up. And so here's another kind of further to this perspective. Most of my business is all online, right? And I run an online yoga studio. And so the majority of the people that I work with, we don't meet in real life. And the majority of my work is recorded. And our teachers in the studio, their work is recorded. But I get feedback all the time from people being like, I feel like we're friends and not in a parasocial way. And so if anybody knows the word parasocial, it's that like, you see somebody on social media or on TV and you're like a movie star and you're like, I know I'm friends with this movie star. And it's like unhealthy parasocial. That's what parasocial is. It's not that. It's just the fact that even my recorded videos in the studio aren't this polished, like they're professional and they're good, but they're not polished like, welcome to my class. Here I am now. Like, do you like you know what I mean? It's still like, hey, and I might even in the like, and I don't edit out, oh, my left, I might have messed up a left or right. It's still in that class. And I've been teaching for 20 years and I still mess up left and rights, by the way. Totally normal and perfectly okay. But is that like, so when you stay yourself, even in front of a camera, no matter if that's on social media, whether you teach online, it's like the secret magic sauce. But this is where our beautiful yoga practice comes in because if it's super vulnerable and hard to do to be yourself, well, yay, there's your yoga. You get to do your more self work and ask those questions. Well, why is it scary for me to be vulnerable? Why is it scary for me to show up in this certain way? And so that sense of authenticity is our practice. How do I want to show up? How do I feel comfortable showing up? You don't have to show up how I show up. How does it show up? How can you show up in the way that works for you?
Oh my gosh, I love this so much. And you're right. Like some people might watch something right away and be like, yeah, no. And you're right. You curate your own audience. They know what's coming. Same with our podcast. Like it's it's very rare now that I get nasty emails from podcast listeners because like we're hanging out, we're all learning together. I'm making mistakes and then we all learn, we put it on the podcast and we keep going. Like I remember one person writing me an email and saying, if you're going to use your pronouns, I'm no longer listening to your podcast. And I was like, okay, bye. Like we've already explained how this helps other people feel included and safer and cared for. So I'm up for doing that. If you're not, it's probably best that you don't follow me. So there are times where you are going to turn people away and That's totally, it's not a bad thing. And there are times when your audience might say, wait, you just said something or did something and it kind of hurt or it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And that's time for us to listen, to develop those relationships. Hey, yoga teachers, if running your yoga business ever feels like a juggling act, I agree. I get it. I understand. And I know what it's like to think, oh my gosh, I have all these emails to answer. I need to get this class plan together. I need to drive over to that studio. Oh, right. I need to gather up my props by the door. All of the things that you have to do. You know what you can let go of is all of the stuff that OfferingTree can take care of, which is your schedule, your payments, your website, the emails that you need to send out, the automations, the freebies, where someone can get on your website and download something. All of this is in their all-in-one platform. You can send out Zoom links, you can send out reminders to your students, they can fill out their waiver. This is why I love OfferingTree. There's no tech headaches. And so you can spend less time doing admin and more time doing what you love, which is teaching and sharing yoga. So check out OfferingTree. We have a special discount for you over at OfferingTree.com/Shannon. Again, that's OfferingTree.com/Shannon. Okay, let's dig into this a little bit more because when we say suck at marketing, you're embracing that like this is okay. I'm not following all of the things that the marketing world is asking me to do. But you brought up when we feel like we suck at marketing, like when we feel like, I'm not good enough. My yoga's not good enough. My room isn't clean enough, or like the lighting's bad, or like my microphone, I don't like the sound of my voice, or whatever it is. What about when the inner critic is really telling us, like, no, you suck at this, don't even try?
It's so real, that inner critic and that imposter syndrome. And and because I work with yoga teachers so much and for so long, I wonder sometimes, is this a yoga teacher thing? Because like, do yoga teachers, we just have this default because we're helpers, and or is it? I don't know why, and I'm sure maybe that's again a cultural narrative of like we all suck and we all have to be experts, and again that sense of hierarchy and the dominant perspectives of you have to be really good at everything in order to show up. And this is so I think there's many parts to this. So the first part is recognizing that we're never good. Our learning never ends. And hopefully our yoga practice keeps reminding us of that. So an expert is, yeah, I want an expert in brain surgery if I ever have to have brain surgery. Please, like,
Right.
please know what you're doing. Like, but yoga teachers aren't brain surgeons unless you're somebody who happens to be both. Well, yay, cool. But for the most of us, we're not also brain surgeons. We don't have this, let's say, high risk, highly specialized need. What we're doing is helping people. But we might feel like we're imposters because we care. We want, yoga helped me. It's made me feel so good. I want to do the same thing for others. But wait, it's that story that I said earlier, that sense of like, but I have to find my teacher and I have to like, it's that expertise hierarchy that somehow we're going to get to some spot and then we'll be good enough. And that's such utter bullshit and not helpful. And so for me, I think as a teacher, as a marketer, as all the things, is getting really good at not being good and getting really good at seeing that voice that will come up and say, well, who's going to listen to me? There's a million other yoga teachers out there, and that person down the street, that person at my studio, they're more charismatic. I'm an introvert. Right. There's these things that are very real that will show up. And so again, for me, it comes back to, well, what am I doing here in the first place? Why am I even doing this? And when I can stay connected to my why, then that helps move me forward. And sometimes that why will change. So for anybody who's listening, who's been teaching for a while and you haven't thought about that, you're just like, I like teaching yoga. and I love it. And but well, why? And what why now? Like what now for you is keeping you moving forward? And also who? Who do I want to help? What kind of people do I want to help? And what ways do I want to help? Keep writing these things down and don't just be vague and be like, I like to help people. Well, how? List 20 different ways that you want to help. And then and if you can write it down, you can look back at it. And then that can also inform you what kind of posts, if you want to go on social media, what kind of posts you want to do, how you want to talk about the things that you want to talk about, because it's not about you. This is the thing that the crux, my friend. So as we're doing this, of course, it's all about you. You're there, it's your face on social if that's the way that you want to do it, but you're the vehicle in the ways that you can help people. And I also love the fact that this authenticity conversation in a way too is also like the more imperfect that you are, the more relatable you are and the more that you actually help people on a deeper level. So we got to keep showing up and doing things poorly sometimes. And that's part of our practice and it's visible. So sometimes you have to make a mistake publicly to some degree because you're putting this stuff out there on social. But that humility of just this deep practice. So for me, that is my yoga. It's like this deep practice of failing and being open to making mistakes and being open to trying new things and not being that great and hearing those voices. Like, for example, a little parallel experience right now, I've been starting to paint again. And there's part of me that's like, even just this morning, I've been doing a drawing practice every morning and I'll just sketch and stuff. And my practice this morning wasn't that great. And I watched my brain this morning go, Brie, you should just stop. You know what? Like you're not progressing as fast as you want to do, and like just you should just stop. And I had to tell, like, it was like this conversation in my head where I was like, no, shut up. This feels good. This is and like this the practice of doing it is good. I want to be better. I want a certain outcome. And I just have to trust that I will get there. And I don't know when I'm going to get there. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to get there. And it's that process. And so, this mirroring of something small ish, like a drawing practice, let's say, is the same conversation that I think for a lot of us need to keep having with ourselves when it comes to putting ourselves out there as teachers. And because when you don't put yourself out there, my friends, you don't help people. They can't find you. So this isn't about you. You got to see the fear and the imposter and the insecurity and do it anyway. So what's your through line? What's that thing that's going to help you move through that sense of nobody's going to care. They all hate me, whatever these stories are. And another thing with that too, I love naming the things that I'm scared of. This has been a really helpful practice for me too. So if this is, and let's say in this context with social media, if you're somebody who's like, I know I need to put myself out there, I want to put myself out there, I feel okay with it, but I'm totally scared. Then if you just ask yourself, okay, well, what am I most scared of? Okay, well, I'm scared that everybody's going to hate me. Okay, cool. Right. So like for me, it's like you got to do the most dramatic worst case scenario. So let's say everybody's going to hate me and they're all going to judge me and laugh at me and see how little and tell me how little I know and how wrong I am. Let's say those are some of the hard, scariest fears. The minute my experience that we name them, the more they're not as strong and I face them head on. I'm like, okay, yes, I'm scared of everybody not liking me. Okay, so I sit with that feeling for a moment because it's not hiding in the back of my mind now, it's in the forefront. And then if you've already done the practice, let's say, of writing down, like, well, who am I helping? How do I want to help? What are all the ways that I'm helping? Then hopefully the through line is okay, well, odds are probably everybody is not going to hate you and think that you're a fraud at all. But we've named it. We're looking at the fear dead on. Great. Okay, so I see the fear. That's what I mean about seeing the fear and doing it anyways. I see that I'm scared of not everybody loving me, let's say. But I know I want to help. And I know what I have to offer can help people because it helped me. So hopefully that is the story that slides us past the fear. And if that is social media, and maybe that's not even social media, maybe that's just showing up because you're a new beginner teacher and you're just scared to teach your first class. So these practices aren't just for marketing. These practices are for life. Again, me painting and drawing, it's just when fear stops us, it stops us from really helping others, truly. And may we all, I'm going to make one big generalization here. I'm going to assume if we've all decided to teach yoga, it's because we want to help. So let's get out of our own way, do our work, do our yoga, but remember the through line is help. How am I helping? What are the ways in which I can help?
Oh
And
my
hopefully
gosh,
that
this is
helps you on
gold.
social.
Oh, this is so good. And I love your story of the painting and how this voice came up. And of course, you're going to get better if you're doing it every day and you're making a practice of it. And really, if you sucked at it your entire life, but you find joy in it, that's being good at it. That's finding something. I love it. Thank you for that. That was inspiring. I was like, what could I do? Like every single day, one small thing. Because even
I love it.
sometimes we
Those
think
are
that
great
it's like
practices.
too late or something for something like that, but it's not. Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh yeah. No, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think that's for me a huge, like, do something uncomfortable, even if it's small, right? Like, yeah, like what's the thing? Because it's such a beautiful, like this drawing, for example, it's such a beautiful microcosm of these bigger things that go on in the head all the time. So it's just, I know it as I'm doing it. Like I watch all these voices of this sucks. I know where I want to go. I'm not there yet. When's it gonna happen? No, look at there.
Right.
There it is. There's that voice again. And yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Um, what about because I know that you have not shied away from letting your opinions be known about social justice and making yoga accessible to all people and, you know, wanting equality for people. What about that? Like, what about, because you said, we might say something online and then we might get a bunch of hate back.
Yeah. Oh, that one's a beautiful practice. And and it's interesting because like it's that come for me, that comes back to the why again. And so there's layers of whys, like why are we doing anything? Why are we teaching yoga? And for me, there's certain things I'm super passionate about. And I've experienced it all where definitely have had very strong pushback on certain topics. And I'm thinking of one topic in particular a couple of years ago, just post pandemic. And I won't go into all the details of the things. And it was the first post because I'd always sort of posted things, but I think with the pandemic and everything was way heated in the world. And I posted something about, yeah, just, yeah, I posted
Tell
something.
us.
Oh, okay, okay. It was around that time of the trucker so here in Canada, so me and Shannon are both Canadian, and there's a trucker protest, and it made me very angry. I was people are talking about sovereignty and people are talking, I'm like, sovereignty? Let's talk to the indigenous people of Canada and sovereignty. And so these generally white male truckers were like, well, our rights. And so internally had, yeah. So I did a post. I reposted somebody else's thing about just the rise of wing extremism in Canada. And I knew there'd be some sort of pushback, and I was expecting that. But this was, I think, just a beautiful timing of a lot of stuff and a lot of emotions. And it was just around, again, that pandemic fatigue, all the stuff. And I had a lot of colleagues and even family members be like, "You're wrong. What are you saying? This is," and just like, and it brought me to therapy in a good way because it was like, oh, wow. And I'm reacting a lot. Like nobody's seeing this online. This is me then in my own house and home. And just seeing how, wow, okay, wow, the world, holy, what are we doing? And so going through this process of watching my own reactions and vulnerabilities and putting something that I felt very passionate out there, and was quite surprised that many yoga colleagues weren't on the same page and were maybe aligning themselves and that was just, and then there was a lot of things within that, but then so that taught me them for future social posts, it's like social media posts. If I'm going to post something that I know will have potential for pushback, what are my internal boundaries? How can I, because it put me in an emotional tailspin in a good way, not good it wasn't fun at the time. And like I said, it brought me into counseling to see some of my own deeper uh, beliefs and systems of myself. So it was a beautiful opportunity for myself to learn and grow. And then moving out of that, that helped me refine boundaries and my why and my mental and emotional capacity to post things that I have the capacity then to deal with whatever degree of fallout, for example. So there's so then like subsequently, I think was it last year, I did, it was Pride Month, June. I think it was maybe this time last year, post something about pride and then like got a ton of homophobic comments. And then I subsequently did a follow-up post where I said, hey, I teach accessible and inclusive things. And if you're coming onto my page, getting benefits from these accessible, inclusive practices and simultaneously having a homophobic, bigoted beliefs, then that's not accessibility. And accessibility for me means accessibility for all. And that still had its own bunch of levels of pushback, but I was in a good place. I was very clear. This is another way of showing that why. What is my why? So in that microcosm moment, I knew my why. I knew my boundaries. I don't want to accept homophobia and transphobia and bigotry on my pages, and explained it in the context of accessibility, and hopefully using that as an educational moment of, hey, accessibility means everybody. So you don't get to benefit and then exclude people. You don't get to benefit from accessibility and simultaneously exclude. So that was my messaging. And then the subsequent comments, I just was in a place where I could handle them. I had some of the really bad ones I just deleted, and that was my boundary. And then the ones that were bad adjacent and to my degree of that, then I just was in this place where I was able to be sort of, I don't know if this helps for, and if this ever happens to anybody, this was my solution sometimes for comments on things like this. I came back, so I can't remember exact one exactly, but I know I would come back and be like, oh, thank you so much for really, the tone is sort of patronizing a little bit. I'll admit that. Maybe passive aggressive sweet, but it's like, where I'm like, oh, thanks so much for sharing your opinion. It looks like our opinions are different. But the good news is there's a lot of great room for learning and opportunity. You can check out all these different resources to learn about why, like homophobia, knowing full well these people aren't, like, they're not going to read anything at all. They're
Right.
not, you don't argue with people in the comments. It's just, they're not commenting to be educated. But I'm coming back with passive aggressive kindness in a way that they can't argue with. And
Yeah.
it was really sweet. It was really nice to kind of like, so it stops it without it being more angry. So this was kind of a long way of explaining that it requires, when there are things that are more charged in the world, we can't necessarily be quiet about it. It's important to keep having our voice. But in my experience, having that, figuring out what your capacity is and the things that we have that ability, because there's other times where I've filmed something and I'm like, yes, I'm going to post this. And then I realize, and I've had to check in and go, how are you doing right now, Brea? Do you have the time, the energy? Because it sucks me in. I'm passionate about this enough that I'm going to post it. So if I'm going to see a bad negative comment, I have to know that I'm in a good place for it. The good news is, so before we scare anybody off of social media with this, right? Other than knowingly charged conversations like pride, like genocide, like absolutely lots of things that will create in like different reactions. For the most part, when it comes to yoga and inclusivity and accessibility and doing things a little bit different, I rarely get pushback on that. So luckily, I've been in this game for a long time. There's the rare troll that will come. I'll get the odd DM that's a gross dick pic, but it's not like, because these are the hazards of being a woman also on social media.
Right.
So just before we scare anybody, in my experience, where I have a fairly large reach and audience, that other than these more socially charged contexts, I don't get a lot of pushback to my face or in my DMs or anything like that. So please don't be scared. Again, in my experience, it's rare to have negativity unless it's a more charged conversation like that. So if that's a part of for somebody that scares you to do social media, it's not all trolls out there,
It's true.
hopefully.
True. I've had a post like really hit when I was talking about, oh, I'm a woke liberal. I forget what far left. Like I was tired of being labeled this for speaking up about genocide. And I was like, have a great day if you're one of my fellow woke liberal, whatever I said to friends. And wow. It was because I was being a little sarcastic and a little like, "Nah, nah, nah." Like people are like, I can't believe you're a yoga teacher and you're talking like that. Really? Like yoga teachers can be sarcastic too, especially me. And like,
Or keep the politics out.
right, right, right. And I I just went through, I was like, can I handle this? One other thing you can do is you can change your settings of your comments and make it so that people who are you are following or they're following you on Instagram, they can comment. Like there's different ways that you can deal with it. Cause at one point I was like, yeah, I can deal with these comments. And then it was like hundreds. I was like, most of them are great. A few of them are harmful to other people. So you have to definitely gauge your energy on it for sure. But what keeps you posting then about these things, Brie?
Oh, that's a tricky one because I have all sorts of vague like I oscillate between I'm not doing enough whatsoever. I could be doing more. Holy crap, this world is falling apart. I have a platform. Da, 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 da. Um, so there's that, my own self beating up in a way, right? Like this perception of what can we do, and then what works, what doesn't work, right? What's happening with and I'm pausing because I think that's a kind of actually a beautifully charged question that carries a lot of weight and emotion around for me, because I see the world that we're in, and it's a really challenging time, and it's easy to feel quite helpless, and I can feel quite helpless at times. It's easy to feel, even if we're doing everything, is it even enough? And what is everything? Uh, and also the real things of like, I have a livelihood and I only have so much time, and certain things that we talk about or don't talk about, like can be affected. And this is a very polarizing time right now. Just as you said, when you said like woke leftist, that language was not a derogatory term. It feels like 2 years ago, even, so there's this polarization so there's these very complex intersections that are happening in the world. And we are here, these individuals, and maybe that's again, these systems of oppression that force us to be individuals, force us to think it's all on us. It's all on me to do this. And so that feeling of pressure and not doing enough becomes real. And so I don't have an easy answer for this other than I got to keep doing it, and I got to keep doing it in my own way. And I probably could be doing more. And I have absolutely have had people be like, you're not I'm disappointed in Heart and Bones. You're not talking about this, that, and that. And then other people are like, thanks. Like, eh, I, that's my answer, right? Like that, like, we're all, okay. Maybe this is the other part of it. Like, we're also freaking learning this as we go. For all the years that we have been in social media, I have never seen it like this. The world that we are in. Whew, so we are all learning as we go here. We are all learning as we go. And also kind of trying to stay in one's own lane. I'm not an expert on genocide. I'm not an expert on systems of oppression. So I want to talk about them in the ways that I feel capable and are still within my lane, and not makes it maybe even my own voices, bringing in other people's voices who are doing that too. So that's a lot. There's a lot. That was a big question.
Well,
A great question, but
I'm thrilled with the way you answered. Some things that I want to pull out here is we are kind of pushed into corners feeling like, what can I even do to make a difference? There's the Dalai Lama quote, which Audrey, who's going to be on the podcast at some time, I don't know when it will release. Audrey was talking about the Dalai Lama quote about, you know, oh, I'm just small. Like, how can I make a difference? And the Dalai Lama said something like, well, try and spend the night with a mosquito while you're trying to sleep. Like, we can really make a difference, even if we're just this tiny little buzzing in the background. Um, and I feel like community is there. And you were saying, like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing enough. I've heard this message from a lot of yoga teachers. And I want to say I have felt it as well. That helpless, like, am I doing enough? What could I be doing more? Um, and I think it's isolating. And I think it makes us feel like we're just one person. What can we even do? And like, there are people moving mountains right now with just, being one of the many mosquitoes. You know, if one person sees your post about pride and then sees you back it up, they're like, when you say they're scrolling through your social media, if someone is feeling like I need a safe person to either be my queer self around or to support my child who's come out as trans, they know that they can show up to your yoga offering. Like, I feel like we're vetting in that way. So I'll definitely link to an episode where we talk to Brooke and Tristan about how marketing has changed and like how to walk this dance. But I just want to say, like, I see the work that you're doing and I see how you're just, you're like, we're still trying to figure this out. And it makes us feel like we're in it together and community together and connected. So thank you for doing that.
And thank you, of course, to both doing the same thing and just figuring it out. And I think that's another thread towards this because I think about this a lot with market. Literally, again, just this morning, I was thinking about this of like, does anybody have anything figured out? And so when it comes to marketing, to when it comes to social justice, when it comes to parenting, when it comes to anything, relationshiping, we really are just figuring it all out and being kind to ourselves on that. And I think the juxtaposition, I think maybe another answer to your question of how do I keep this going, is is that it's like I want to show up like that because what pisses me off is the slick marketing, is people trying to present themselves like these are the only ways to blah, blah, blah. When is that? No, like, can we just show up as ourselves? And so, me, that's so even if it's not a direct social justice conversation, let's say, I kind of, I have to remind myself that it's like, well, wait, every time I change that dominant uh expectation and that dominant like this is how we should be, you should be slick, you should be professional, it's like no, I'm being subversive here on purpose. No, I'm going to be professionally unprofessional. I'm going to keep showing up and showing people there are other ways to show up, and that's enough. And when we do that, then that's also contributing to helping shift these systems because it's all systems, and that's why we feel alone and individualized, because I think that's the other part of it. We don't understand the systems that we're working in, and we don't understand the systemic pressure and the systems that force us, as we've been talking about, yeah, to be individual and not recognize, yeah, collectively we are doing things, and collectively we are being those little mosquitoes in a variety of different ways. So let's
Yeah.
continue to subvert by being ourselves and being our imperfect selves and being our still please be for professional. Like if you're a yoga teacher, we should still be professional, show up and not like be ragged. But so when I say professionally and professional, it's just that like, okay, and I'm myself and I'm still figuring this out and I don't have all the answers and I'm never going to have all the answers and this, and I just got pissed off at Instagram the other day and I wanted to quit it. And then today I loved it. And right, like, and we're all of this.
Right.
Because why? Because we're here to help, and we're here to help in a variety of annoying mosquito-like ways that hopefully inspire people.
Oh my gosh. I hope when you're out, anybody's out walking, they think of this when a mosquito is bothering them because it's been, I laugh every time there's a mosquito now. in a like, haha, here it is. Uh, thank you for this. And I love how you brought it back to like, ask yourself how you're here to help. That's really powerful. We can do that on social media. We can do it out in the world, in real life. As you said, like we're all trying to figure it out. And we can just keep asking, is this helping?
Yeah, and there's
Love that.
layers to that question. That's why I really encourage us not just some abstract like, "Oh yeah, how am I helping?" but like get so specific because I think even in the course of this conversation, we've shown a variety of layers of how one can help. What degree of social justice are we talking about? How am I helping somebody even just show up as themselves better? How am I helping somebody feel better with their shoulder? How am I helping somebody feel better in their mental health? Like there's so many ways. And I think that the through line is maybe the more we all show up as our, and it sounds so cheesy, but I know we've already said authentic and kind of, but how do we show up as our authentic, perfectly imperfect selves? Because that is one of the most powerful teachings out there, because you are mirroring. So this is including when you show up in your yoga class as a teacher and you're not, oh no, I got my left and right wrong, or oh, I didn't do this. Like, but if you're still real and honest about that in everything that we do, that's the teaching. That's the power, right? Then we don't have to change who we are. We don't have to hide who we are. We don't have to hide and to fit in. We're being ourselves, and may that be the through line, and in one of the many ways that helps us show up for the helping.
Yeah. It's definitely finding your own yoga practice in all of this. So good. So good. Thank you so much for this. If our listeners want to learn more from you, where should they go?
They can go to, well, you can come to heartandbonesyoga.com. We have an online studio full of also myself, but also fabulous other wonderful teachers who offer inclusive, accessible, happy, supportive yoga practices, mindfulness practices. And then also, of course, you can see how I market on social media with the goofiness at Heart and Bones Yoga. You can find that YouTube. You can go Heart and Bones Yoga, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Instagram's the one that I kind of consistently post on. The other ones I'm half-assed, and I'm learning to be slightly more asked on that. And but it comes and goes because I only have so much time. And a Heart and Bones podcast as well. We sporadically will do fun little yoga teacher supportive episodes and things like that. So just search Heart and Bones Yoga all around the interwebs and you'll find me.
Thank you so much, Brea.
Thank you. This has been so good, Shannon.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for this, Brea. It was such a pleasure to talk to you again and to hear your wisdom and be able to bounce things back and forth off of each other around what the struggles are as yoga teachers who are marketing. And I just like your lightheartedness about the world, how it's like you're not taking anything too seriously, but also you're really standing up and standing your ground for humanity as well at the same time. I really feel like that's yoga. I have some key takeaways, connected yoga teachers. These are things that I would love for you to consider if you are thinking, how can I take something from today's episode and actually put it into action? So I have a little list. I'd love to hear what your key takeaways were or what you really took away from this and you thought, okay, I'm going to do that this week. So number one was embrace imperfection in marketing. So just showing up as your authentic self instead of striving for perfection, which is not even a real human thing. That builds trust. I love it when I see like, oh, someone, made a mistake with their words or they don't look absolutely polished and perfect. I feel like I can relate more to people like that. Number two is defining how you're helping very specifically. So ask yourself, how is what I'm offering, how is it helping people? Maybe you're supporting mental health, someone's physical mobility. Maybe you're really focused on inclusivity, let that shape the message that goes out to people, and then just keep repeating it. I know you feel like you're repeating yourself. Let's say you offer yoga that helps people get sleep. Just continue to keep talking about it. Trust me, you will find different ways to talk about it, but you can talk about the same thing over and over again. Number 3 is be consistently visible, even in small ways. So if you create regular, sincere social media posts, no matter how simple and easy they are, that can signal safety and connection for your community. It's like checking in with a close friend. So even if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this, what consistent schedule could you do? Maybe you want to try posting once a week. Maybe you want to try writing something once a week. Maybe you want to send out an email to your list once a week. All right, number 4, challenge the dominant norms with authenticity. So throw these ideas out, these mainstream marketing ideas, and really think about, what would I like to receive if let's say I wanted to attend a yoga class, but I'm nervous about going, or I'm a beginner to yoga? What kind of a marketing message would really help you in that moment? Number 5 is build community, not just clients. So think of your audience, the people that are showing up, as people you're in conversation with. Don't just think of them as customers. That can really reduce pressure and increase that connection. So think about it, like you're building community. You might be connecting people with other people, and you're giving them information, and they might decide then that they want to work with you further. Okay, the next one is stay in your lane, but share the road. So you don't need to speak on every single issue or topic in yoga, but instead share and support voices doing that work while staying true to what you know, what you teach. And like Brea said, we're all learning. So we can share. Let's say we're not an expert in anatomy or in a social justice issue. We can look for the experts and we can amplify their voices, and then we can really stick to our lane and also go together in community. Doesn't mean that we're just ignoring everything else that's going on in the world. But when something's really in our lane, let's say you're a yoga teacher and you specifically work with kids, you will really want to tailor your marketing to that age group, the parents probably. And your marketing message will often be focused around kids. On that note, I have to say, I'm so impressed with Miss Rachel, the kids entertainer, the person on TV or on videos that kids absolutely love. I am so impressed by her message right now, where she's working with different children who have come out of Gaza and are amputees, and really speaking up for children around the world. And when someone challenged her on this and said, what are you doing? You're just supposed to show up as an entertainer for children. She was like, this is literally my job. I care about children all over the planet. There's not just one group of children that I make content for. So, yeah. Also, the last one, remember, you are not alone. So I love how Brea said, we're all figuring this out. Lean into community. Find the people who will talk to you about things like this. Look at doing collaboration work and look at collective growth over competition. That is a really good key takeaway. I'm curious, what action steps you might take after having listened to this episode. To check out the show notes, head on over to theconnectedyogateacher.com/397. And if you are enjoying the podcast, we appreciate it so much if you share it with another yoga teacher, another friend. If you share it on social media, tag us. I'm on Instagram a lot at The Connected Yoga Teacher. I also want to send a huge thank you out to our team who bring this podcast to life each and every week. And I want to thank you, dear listener. You really are the heart of the podcast. I'm so grateful that you've been here hanging out. This was an extra long chat with Brea, and I don't want to give you too many personal updates here, but I also want to share that I've been really busy planting in the garden. As some of you might know, I'm starting a garden market and I've got some fears around it. It's a bit scary. I talk about it in some previous episodes. Go back and have a listen to those. Starting something new is scary, but also I really feel like this is my place out in the garden growing things. And last week I sold a bunch of seed potatoes to people who want to grow their own food, and that is super exciting to me. So if you want to follow along, I'm posting about that on Instagram as well at The Connected Yoga Teacher. And of course, as usual, I'm going to wrap up with a question. What will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?